everybody, and welcome back to the Readings from Neptune Tarot podcast. I am the Neptunian Kitty, and I got a lot of questions and emails asking me about what it means to have Mercury, I was about to say Neptune, Mercury retrograde in a natal chart. I know I talked about that previously when I was talking about what it is we needed to know for the Mercury retrograde in Leo and Virgo season. So I've decided to make a part 2 where we talk about what it means to have Mercury retrograde in your chart natally. So when you have Mercury retrograde in a natal chart, it means that when you were born, Mercury was apparently in retrograde. It's very simple. So this placement can influence you, how you process information, how you communicate and interact with others. So here's what you might expect from a natal Mercury retrograde and how it can impact various aspects of your lives. So one is reflective communication. You may have a more introspective approach to communicating rather than expressing thoughts spontaneously. You might prefer to reflect deeply before sharing your ideas. This can lead to a thoughtful and considered communication style. Also, revisiting thoughts. People with Mercury retrograde often find themselves revisiting old ideas or thoughts. You might be drawn to reevaluate decisions or revisit topics of interest from earlier in life. And as someone who has this natally in her chart in the 6th house, yes, I do agree. Look at me finishing Spooky, Scary, Spectacular. So unique problem solving skills. So your approach to problem solving may be unconventional or non-linear. So that means that instead of going A plus B plus C, you go A is Z and then its imaginary number equals Y kind of a deal. So you could have a knack for seeing solutions and thinking outside of the box that others might have overlooked as well. And you might have you come up with creative and innovative ways of coming up with things. So you're just a very creative person. So a lot of people give Mercury retrograde a very scary flack. I honestly think the Pluto return we're about to have and Pluto and Neptune hitting Aries on March 30th of 2025, I feel that's going to be real scary, and I'm going to make an episode on that for this podcast, but a little bit more about that later. So if you have Mercury retrograde natally in your chart, you are a very unique problem solver. So number 4, intuitive thoughts. There may be a stronger connection to intuition and inner wisdom. You might find that your insights come from within rather than from external sources. So I'm not saying psychic ability, I'm just saying the powers of deduction be there. Okay, so relearning and revisiting. There may be a tendency to revisit and correct past mistakes. This can be a strength if used constructively, allowing you to refine and improve upon earlier work or ideas. Okay, so we talked about a little bit what it means, what to have Mercury natally retrograde in your chart. So now we are going to discuss how it impacts each of the houses. And that's like how I did it on the last one. So in the 1st house, it's how you communicate, and thinking styles might be more introspective or unconventional. Since the 1st house is all about appearances and how you come off, you may come across as thoughtful and reserved in conversations, and you might prefer to process your thoughts internally before sharing externally. 2, in your 2nd house, your approach to finances and values may be influenced by revisiting old financial strategies or values. You might have a unique perspective on money management and self-worth. So you might end up being really good at budgeting, or eventually down the line, you really learn how to budget and you learn how to move money kind of a deal. So your 3rd house, which is the house about networking and, interpersonal connections. This is a natural placement for Mercury retrograde, emphasizing introspective thinking, revisiting past conversations, and possibly a unique style of learning and communicating. Relationships with siblings or neighbors might also be significant in this context, okay? Now, so the reason why it says it feels comfortable in the 3rd house is because Geminis, along with Virgos, are ruled by the 3rd house, meaning that is the house of communication and networking with your neighbors and your siblings, whereas in the 6th house, it's more like your coworkers kind of a deal. So now in your 4th house, if it's natally there, it will be, natally means it was there when you were born. Focusing on your family and home life could be areas where you revisit past issues or gain new insights. You may have a reflective approach to understanding your roots and emotional foundations. Maybe wondering oh my gosh, the reason why I react like this is because when I was little, X, Y, and Z happened, kind of a deal. So if Mercury is natally retrograde in your 5th house, it's about creativity, and romance might be areas where you experience revisits or reinterpretations. You might approach creative projects and romantic relationships with a sense of revisiting or reworking past experiences, okay? So maybe rediscussing whether you want to have kids or not. So in the 6th house, work and health, like I was saying earlier, might involve revisiting past habits or routines. You may be drawn to refining your approach to daily responsibilities or seeking to understand deeper patterns in your work and health. Whereas if it's natally in your 7th house, the house of relationships and partnerships, this could involve revisiting old patterns or seeking to resolve past issues. Your approach to one-on-one interactions might be reflective and focus on understanding deeper dynamics between you and other people. Now, in the 8th house, themes of transformation, shared resources, and intimacy might involve revisiting and reevaluating. You may approach these areas with a deep and introspective perspective. Now, in the 9th house, higher education, travel, and philosophy might be areas where you revisit past beliefs or educational experiences. You may have a unique approach to learning and exploring different cultures or philosophies. Now, if it's happening in your 10th house, this is the house of public image and career, you might be influenced by a tendency to revisit past professional experiences and redefine your public persona. You may have a reflective approach to your career goals and achievements. In the 11th house, friendships and aspirations might involve revisiting past social connections or reevaluating long-term goals. Your approach to group dynamics and future plans might be introspective and thoughtful. And in the 12th house, which is the house of hidden enemies, the subconscious and spirituality, the subconscious mind and hidden matters might be areas of deep introspection, or you might end up finding out who has been your enemy the entire time. Usually, let's say your 12th house is in Aquarius, that's more than likely someone that's always either your op or your op's very unconventional. Okay, that's a tip. So you might have a strong intuitive sense and a tendency to revisit and process inner psychological patterns, and also like how every foe has had a pattern to an extent. Now, the practical advice for this is to embrace the reflection, use the introspective nature of Mercury retrograde to your advantage by embracing, reflecting, and revising. This can be a period of valuable personal growth and understanding. Do the shadow work. Now, communicate thoughtfully. Be aware of your communication style and ensure that you express yourself clearly. While you might prefer to think things through, strive to be clear and concise when interacting with others. Like me, for example, I can come off very harsh and brash because I'm a straight shooter, but I have to mind myself, know your audience, and then start gauging how you're going to communicate there. I wouldn't talk to my friends the same way I talk to the President of the United States, as much as I want to. Now, manage expectations. Understand that revisiting past issues is a part of the process. Use this time to address any unresolved matters and gain deeper insights into your thought process. Having Mercury retrograde in your natal chart can be a source of unique strength and perspective. By embracing its reflective qualities and understanding its influence in various areas of your life, you can leverage its energy for personal growth and deeper self-awareness. Thank you all for coming back to this special edition of, well, not a special edition, but for this part 2 of Mercury retrograde, discussing about what it means to have Mercury retrograde in your chart natally, and how it can impact you depending on where it is transiting in your natal chart or what house it is transiting. So this is the Neptunian Kitty, and this has been the readings from Neptune Tarot Podcast. Be sure to come back next week for your weekly horoscopes of July 29th all the way through August 5th, or through August 5th all the way through August 11th. And be on the lookout for more of these kinds of episodes. I will be discussing Chiron retrograde, Pluto return, Neptune in Aries, Neptune retrograde, and Saturn retrograde in the astrology for 2025, and what you need to know and what you need to be aware of. As always, if you want longer and extended videos, look me up on YouTube, Readings from Neptune Tarot, and on Rumble as well, or on Facebook, Readings from Neptune Tarot-Clarissa. This is the Neptunian Kitty, and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.